players to successfully perform a defensive switch is critical to successful team defense for two reasons. First, man-to-man in a straight situation without a switch requires that the defensive team have better personnel, both stronger personnel and quicker personnel. Secondly, an offensive pick in wheelchair basketball is simply too efficient to allow a team to play straight man-to-man, in that a good pick can prevent defensive recovery. So the purpose of a defensive switch then is to allow two defensive players to exchange their assignments without conceding position to the offensive team. Now, in terms of the mechanics of a defensive switch, the first and foremost facet of successful defensive switching is constant quality communication. It's imperative that the two players on defense be in a continuing dialogue, expressing the movements of the offensive team, whom they are guarding, and what actions are necessary or imminent in their future play. Secondly, it's important for that defender who's guarding the offensive player attempting to set the pick, it's important for him to front the zone behind the player they're attempting to pick, to take away that pick and prevent the defense from splitting them. And finally, it's important for that player whom the defense is attempting to pick to back into the paint without reversing, without spinning in. In making this move, by backing into the paint, that defender can always maintain eye contact with their assignment on defense. Now let's walk through a defensive switch. Now let's look at a defensive switch in normal speed.
Big time inside. Switch 32.
That's a successful defensive switch that precluded the offense from gaining access to the zone between the two defenders. Of course, the defense is not always successful in maintaining that position, and occasionally the offensive player is capable of getting into the attack zone between the two defenders. In that case, the player whom the defense is attempting to pick should spin to retreat into the middle of the lane. Now let's see that action in a walkthrough. Now let's see that action at normal speed. Because the defense in a two-man situation is not always capable of stopping the offensive team from setting a successful pick, it becomes important that the defensive players on the help side of the court be aware of the action all over the court on defense and provide assistance to those sides where offensive picks have been set. Thus, we execute what's called a three-player switch. And a three-player switch allows the defense to stop a successful forward pick and only concedes the outside shot. Mechanically, in executing a three-player switch, we first have to have constant communication. Additionally, all the defensive players have to be cognizant of what's going on the floor. They have to be looking left and right, appraising the situation constantly to know exactly when an offensive pick has been set and who needs to execute the switches. Now, in the performance of this three-player switch, the individual that the offense has succeeded in picking should immediately spin and retreat into the lane towards the basket. The player who is defending the offensive player that set the pick should switch to the driving offensive player, and the defender who's assisting from the help side should pick up the offensive player that set the pick. That individual that was picked who retreated into the paint would then read and reestablish defensive position on the offensive player that was originally being defended by the help side defender. Now let's watch a three-player switch in a slow motion walkthrough. Now let's watch a three-player switch at normal speed.
Pick coming. Turn in. Switch.
Finally, let's see a three-player switch in an actual scrimmage situation. In this instance, the left side offensive wing will set a successful low-high pick for the point. Recognizing this, the defensive player on the wing opposite this pick will initiate a triangle switch. To do this, she will come over and pick up the offensive player that set the pick, and the defender who is picked at the point will drop off to the opposite side and pick up the offensive player for whom she had initial responsibility.